how to use the Curvature tool to create amazing shapes in Photoshop. First thing to do, go to View and New Guide Layout. And I'm going to go with 10 and 10. Click OK. What you can then do, just go over and pick a very basic shape, a rectangle or a square. And I'm using it as a shape layer and got filled with a gradient. Just a very basic gradient. You could use any gradient as your source material. Now just go to the Curvature pen tool. And what you can do, you can add points along that line. Now you could add it at every intersection, but what you can do, of course, you can click on that center point and just drag down. And it will come up with a message. Photoshop loves messages. So once you've done that, what you can do, you can go to the other side and you can drag upwards. And always choose that center point. Just go for that center point so you can create that lovely design there. What you can then do is go to the left side and then drag towards the right, and just go to the right side and then drag towards the left and put it into the center. So you've got this sort of flower design. Now, of course, you could create infinitely more complex designs, and I'll probably do video tutorials about those. Now, select the Move tool, and then you can go to a Layer menu, and you can go to Layer Style. Now, of course, you can add a load of different styles, but I'm going to go with very basic drop shadow. Could use a bevel and all those things, maybe add a different gradient, and so on and so on. But I'm just going to go with basic drop shadow. And you, of course, could add multiple drop shadows with the more recent versions of Photoshop. And just change the distance, spread, etc. As long as you just don't go over the edge. Up to you, of course. Click OK. And now I'm just going to remove the guides. So View menu and Clear Guides. Don't need the guides anymore. What I can do, I can duplicate that design. Hold down the Alt or Option key and drag. And then I can resize it. And I can drag it into the center. Now I've got the guides displaying there, so I've got the snap options on. And what I can also do, of course, I could leave it like that, perfectly reasonable, but I can also rotate it to create a more flower-like design. More like petals there. Now I could recolor that design. Of course, I could change the gradient. I don't have to keep the same gradient with that. I can select both of the shapes, the vector layers. I can just go and select both of them, and then Layer menu, Smart Objects, and convert the whole lot into a single object, a smart object. Now I can resize it. Just make it a bit smaller, and then I can duplicate it. Again, hold down the Alt or Option key and fill the entire screen with those flower-like designs. And of course, as a smart object, what you can do, you could go to the Image menu and add adjustments to recolor each of those individually if you wish. You could also resize. You can also go to the Filters menu and apply smart filters, all of them applied to the individual designs. So you can fill your screen with this design very quick and easy. But of course, you don't have to have just this design. What you can do, you can just go back to the very basic, obviously duplicate of each other. And then you could rotate, and of course you could maybe select it at different angles. You don't have to, obviously, well, I've just done it at 90 degrees. I could do it at 33 degrees, maybe make multiple duplicates. So you can make a much more complex flower design. So maybe make it not just 2 layers, but like 20 layers. So you could just duplicate and then change the angle for each of those. Again, you can select both of those designs. And of course, I'm just going to quickly align them, because sometimes I'm never certain. You can actually use the Layer menu and align the centers. And of course, what you can do, you can go and convert it into a smart object again. So layer menu, smart objects, and convert to a smart object. And you can resize that design. So you can see you can create some variations, and you can create many additional variations of this design as well. So of course, what you could do, you could duplicate this design and maybe layer that on top of each other and rotate it slightly, or maybe reduce the size, or maybe just duplicate and just fill the entire screen again with those petal designs. And again, what you can do, you can go to your image menu and adjustments, and you can recolor the individual designs, or maybe go to the layer menu and layer style and add different gradients. What you can also do, you can go back to the very basic design, and again you can duplicate that. And maybe instead of just duplicating it once by holding down the Alt Option key, you can duplicate it multiple times. And of course, once you've done that, you can resize it, make it a bit smaller, and then you don't have to rotate it. Now, I've rotated it in the previous examples, but you could just lay it on top. So you can build up. And then, of course, what you can do the same. Alt or Option key and drag. Create a third, and they're just layers. And you can always go back to these layers, of course, at any point and change them. Maybe go to each of the layers and change the color via layer styles, via layer menu and layer style. So you don't have to use the same gradient for each of those different designs. And then, of course, just align it using the guides. Of course, at some point you get so small you can't see it. So just go for 5 or 6 layers. And of course, you could rotate them if you wish, different angles, up to you. But I'm just going to go with that design. And again, what you can do, of course, you can go and convert it into a smart object. So layer menu and go down to smart objects and convert to smart object. So you've got your multiple copies there. And what you do, of course, you can Alt or Option and drag and fill the design up with those. And you can create some very unusual abstract designs, all created using the curvature tool at the start point and just a basic rectangle. And of course, I've gone with a very basic one where I've just added 4 points all the way around. But of course, I could have created design with maybe 8 points all the way around, or 16 points all the way around, and created more unusual flower-like designs using the curvature tool. What you can also do, of course, with that design there, you can go to the layers panel and you can delete the background. Now you've got some transparency in the background. So what you can then do, you can go to edit menu and define pattern, click OK. So it's stored away as a pattern preset. As a pattern preset, you can use it in like layer menu and new fill layer, but you can also use it in the edit and fill and use pattern scripts. You can also use it like with brushes, such as a texture. Now I'm using contents as pattern. I'm going to select that pattern that we just created. And you've got scripts. Make certain the script is on. Don't have to use scripts, of course. You could just you could just use a standard fill. But I'm going to use, in this case, Symmetry fill for the script. Click OK. And there's a vast number, it's about 32 different types. So it's number 7 I'm going with. But there's number 8, 9, they're all quite good. And you can run through those. And of course, what you can do, you can vary the width and the height. And as well as the scale. I'm putting the scale to the max, but you could reduce the scale. And what you can do, if you put the scale down to say like 0.5, it will be within the confines of the design. So if you create it on a layer, you could then use that as a petal design. And of course, you can vary the color randomness, boost that up, as well as brightness randomness. It's probably best to create a grayscale design if you want to use it full color. So press OK for that. And you can see your flower design there, just created using this Symmetry. And of course, you could use other ones as well. So edit and fill. Again, using Symmetry fill. And you can vary the width, height to create different designs. But you can also, of course, go to any of the other ones. 8, create some interesting designs. And again, vary the width and height. And you can create some very unique designs there. Some work better than others. And of course, you've got all the others as well. So you've got obviously more in the symmetry fill, but you've also got a random fill. You've got spiral and so on and so on. And that's great for creating a frame design. Number 9. So just change and try them out. Experiment. Click OK. And you can see your design there. And of course, you can always recolor that, modify it in many other ways. Now, this design is a smart object. It's a layer. So what you can do, you can alter it. You can go and add an adjustment. So you go to Image Menu, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. Or maybe black and white, photo color, photo filter, color lookup. So I'm just going to go Hue Saturation. And maybe just change the color there, or maybe colorize it. Put the colorize on. And then change the hue. Change the saturation. Maybe make it grayscale. And of course, once it's grayscale, of course, what you can do, you can then bring it back into as a pattern, define it as a pattern again, and then use the fill menu with that to create even more colourful designs. So you've got your design there, a nice colourful design there. And of course, what you can do, you can also apply various filters. So filter menu, distort and wave. Now I normally keep generators fairly low. I don't know why it always defaults to 5. I wish it would default to 1. But anyway, 5 it is. And you can change the amplitude, wavelength, etc. Personally, I don't like it to be completely obliterated. It's just nice to create a subtle wave. So just change the wavelength. And you can just distort it in very unusual ways. Click OK. And you've got your warp design. And of course, what you can do with filters, you can always apply it again, again, and again. Or you can always go to Filter and maybe use Liquify. Or maybe use Edit menu and Transforms and Warp. Or maybe use Perspective. And you can distort it, of course, in multiple ways. And the underlying shapes are still there. So all the design you created with your curvature tool is still there. And you can always go back with your curvature tool and edit the points and change them subtly to create different designs. So you can create a nice sort of unusual design there. Hope you found this of interest. Please subscribe to Graphic Extras channel. Always adding new tutorials about Photoshop, Affinity Photo and many others. Some comments, always appreciated. A dislike or like. Thank you much.